What's up, everyone? It's your host, Ghost, coming back with another wonderful video. Today, what we're going to look at is the Andrew Tate interview with PBD. We're going to look at that for a little bit. Probably not going to really... I probably won't get too deep into it, just because it's a very long interview. It's like it's 4.5 hours, so really super long. So I'm not gonna want to take forever to watch it. Really, I'm sure there's loads of other people who have already looked at it and everything like that. So I'm sure I'm not the first, but I'd like to at least give everyone my thoughts and all that, and just hopefully. Cool. Sorry, I'm just doing something real quick, just in case someone chats me on Rumble. I don't want to. I doubt it, but you never know. But better safe than sorry. Anyways, so we're gonna, just check out this PBD interview. I watched a fair bit of it. I don't think I finished it. That one needs to be good. But so I didn't finish all of it. And I doubt I'll finish it today. I think I'll just do like 2.5 hours. I think that's more than enough. It's a really long interview. I'll probably skip a bunch of parts here and there that don't really interest me too much. But yeah, I mean, who knows? But anyways, sorry. Anyways, Rumble, I guess Rumble just activated, so everyone in Rumble, hello. But yeah, so let's just get into the video, or to the reaction, or however you want to call it. Interview. We'll call it an interview. I thought the parts I watched, I thought was very good. I thought this was a very good video or interview. It was really interesting to watch. Both Andrew's thoughts and PBD's thoughts and everything like that. So. But anyways, yeah, let's get into it, hey?
You're not gonna do this to me anymore. We're not gonna take a cent. When I destroyed the BBC, my brother was celebrating. I knew.
Just gonna try and skip this. Now, for those who don't know, this is obviously after his BBC interview. I don't know. I was gonna say something else, but apparently not. Anyways, let's continue.
So a lot has changed since the last time we sat down with Andrew Tate. Last time we sat down with him, you were the most Googled man on earth. Today, effective last 2 days, you are now the most Googled woman on earth.
Correct.
According to your Twitter profile.
Correct.
And we wanted to make sure after the BBC interview, you made certain requests.
Yeah.
You said you want, moving forward, there to be a $50,000 fee when people sit down to do an interview. So we wanted to make sure the ESG score for this interview would be very high. We got you a $50,000 Target gift card.
I appreciate it very
much.
much.
People in America will appreciate that. And then you also said,
can you even get a $50,000? Can you even get like a $50,000 gift card at Target? I don't know. Obviously, this is probably, they're just mocking it, because when he did that video, this was a video he made after the BBC. He said, "I'll only do interviews with people that he'll only do interviews with people that basically will he'll only do interviews with mainstream media that will if they pay him $50,000 or like do a donation to $50,000, like $50,000 donation to a charity." Or no, pay him $50,000 and he'll donate to charity, and he'll prove that he donated to charity. He'll do that, and then he will. He also wants a box of chocolates, which is reference to the Matt video he did for Vice. Anyways, that's all the. Anyway, back to it.
Amazing.
To make sure we match that, and then we
One
did
for your brother as well.
we did bring a Bud Light, but unfortunately, Vinny finished it on the way here. Vinny, we
I'm already a girl. I don't need Bud Light.
yeah, well, we respect that. So, but anyways, look, a lot's obviously changed from last time to this time. Last time we sat down was around 9 months ago.
Yeah.
You had at the time been deplatformed from every social media platform. We came out here, we sat down, we spoke. The Matrix was attacking you. You were saying Matrix attacking me, Matrix attacking me. From then on, Musk buys Twitter in October. He then reinstates you. In one day, I believe you get 1 million followers on Twitter. You're upwards of 7 million today. Every other account's taken down. I think even Tristan was taken down off of Instagram. And then, the arrest comes, the lover boy, all.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to try and maybe skip through this because it's just a preamble.
I hammered the point home, and I made it very clear that they had the intention of trying to put me in jail. I said, there's 3 lives.
Andrew Tate, ex-kickboxer, red pilling the angry young men of America. These are people that didn't support you. Now, these are the people that supported you. Tucker Carlson, he comes out and he says, on Full Send Podcast,
I hammered the point home. Fly private anymore? Do I want to go that place anymore? You start to think about these things. Like, do I want to do these things? The second you overuse it, there's a
He's supported by restoring your account like this. Jake Shields said people are freaking out about young boys looking up to Andrew Tate, but totally fine with young girls looking up to Cardi B and the Kardashians. And obviously, Aiden Ross,
that's a good point.
Community, Joe Rogan. I can go on and on and on about a lot of things that's being said. We watched the BBC interview, and we'll talk about BBC here in a minute because I have some questions on that as well. But the first thing I want to ask you is, 9 months, where we were at then, September, to where we are today, a lot's changed. How do you feel with everything that's going on? And tell us a little bit about your current state today.
Now, as I'm sure some of you have noticed, well, by this first question, it's obviously a vast difference between the BBC interview that he did. The BBC, when they first when the lady first interviewed him, it wasn't how are you doing and all that stuff. It was immediately, oh, so you've been charged with this, that, and the other thing. So obviously this is a vastly different interview, and Andrew's done an interview in the past with PBD, and so it's a little friendlier environment this time around.
Yeah, there's a very strange sense of terror that comes from knowing exactly what's going to happen to you. There's a strange sense of calm that comes from it also, but in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, sometimes you feel happy knowing what they're trying to do to you, and sometimes you feel terrified knowing what they're trying to do to you. I think I'm very happy. Every single podcast I did previous to this, I hammered the point home, and I made it very clear that they had the intention of trying to put me in jail. I said, there's 3 lives. They try and cancel you and slander you and destroy your name. They don't just want you to disappear from the internet. They want you to disappear from the internet in a cloud of shame. They have to shame you, which is why they chose the crimes they did for me, and it's why they usually choose the crimes they choose, because it's heinous. They want to shame you, and they want you to disappear with your head facing the ground and never pop up again. Obviously, they attempted to cancel me, and I became more famous than ever before. I even said to you on your podcast, and I said on other podcasts, I said, I think they made a mistake. I think when you have power and you overuse it, what happens is a rebellion. That's how a revolution starts. When you have power, you have to be very, very careful with how you use that power. The second you overuse it, there's a revolution, and we're in Romania, so they know all about that. That's exactly what happens. And I said at the time, I think I was a mistake. I think they made a big mistake canceling me the way they did. And then the second time, the second life, which I described as they try and put you in jail for no reason. Here we are in the current scenario. I knew it was going to happen. And the third one is they put a bullet in your head. So we're going to have to see how the second life plays out. And yeah, I mean, when this is all over and I win the court case and I get the not guilty, I won't be smiling. I'll be walking out the courtroom with my head on a swivel. That's the kind of life I'm living now. I'm going to be thinking, oh, okay, so their second attempt failed. Now what? Like, do I want to fly private anymore? Do I want to go that place anymore? You start to think about these things. Like, do I want to do these things? A lot of billionaires dying in plane crashes is strange. So it's scary, regardless of how it plays out. And I guess you just have to go with the punches and see where it lands. And God has a plan for me and for all of us, and we're just going to see how it ends up.
Full disclosure, you don't have any suicidal thoughts.
I want to make it very clear, and I make it clear on absolutely every single podcast, I would never kill myself. I don't care what they say. I don't care what video they show you. Never under any circumstance would I kill myself. It's haram. Never. I don't care if they put me back in the dungeon, solitary confinement by myself for the rest of my human years. I would never kill myself, ever, ever. So if that ever happens, God forbid, do not believe whatever garbage they tell you. The chance of me killing myself is precisely 0.
And you had this complete level of certainty that this is exactly how it would play out. You've said this on umpteen podcasts that this is their agenda.
They had to damage my influence. they have to damage my influence. They can't sit there and let me be influential because I'm saying things that they don't like me saying. And there are people sitting around going, he's saying things counter to our message and counter to our narrative. Get rid of it. And they have a pretty standardized playbook. And this is probably one of the first times in history where their playbook just isn't working. Cancel it.
Yeah. So yeah, Andrew's talked about this a lot, especially with what he just said. You know, he said it like 1,000 times on every podcast he's been on. You know, first they cancel you, then they try to put you in jail, and then they try to kill him. So obviously, you know, and you know, I think he's generally, yeah. I mean, I think he's really like the first like main person that's been canceled that actually survived it. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. And I'm not talking about like Rekieta Law or anything like that. I'm talking more like, you know, someone that's like on mainstream media and all that stuff. I think it's like maybe the first one to actually survive cancellation, or he may not have. But someone that's been on mainstream media and all that stuff. That's what I think. A mass cancellation, really, because like for a lot of times cancellation, it's that particular platform. But like you know, like YouTube or something. But Andrew was canceled off YouTube, Instagram, Airbnb, Uber, what else? Twitter, until Elon Musk bought it back. So I mean, that's what, you know, I'm talking about when I say like a mass cancellation surviving. And you know, thanks to Rumble and other places, and it's kind of been TikTok. He was also kicked off of TikTok, even though he never had a TikTok. But that's what I mean by a mass cancellations, you know, because other people obviously have been canceled and survived by going to like Rumble and stuff like that. But that's what I mean by mass cancellation, because generally if you're canceled, it's generally like off of a particular platform, and it's not all at once coordinated effort type situation. That's what I mean. And thanks for, you know, places like Rumble. Shout out to Rumble. There's places now, if you get kicked off YouTube or something like that, then you can go to Rumble and stream on Rumble. There's a lot more alternative platforms that are going. Anyways, my random thought.
Still around. Oh, well, lie about him in the news. Just say he touches chicks. Well, no one believes it. Oh, all the comments are on his side. Everyone's calling us liars. Okay, then do it again. Make up a new girl. Then do it again. Find someone else. Yeah. And they keep attacking me with the same weapons, but the bullets are bouncing off. And that doesn't give me a sense of calm. That doesn't make me think, ha, 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 I'm invincible. It makes me think, uh-oh. It makes me think, uh-oh, because human life is cheap at the top. It's very cheap.
Does it make you want to sit on the sidelines and be quiet and just kind of live a life with your family, your kids? Does it make you want to do that? Maybe all these attention is actually not a good thing.
It's interesting because sometimes I analyze myself and think, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just disappear? You know, I don't need money. I don't need fame. Why don't I just disappear? And then you have to, I was saying this to my brother, and he was like, well, Genghis Khan didn't need Vienna. Some people are just wired that way. Like, Vienna's a long way from Kathmandu. Sometimes that's just the way it is, or Ulaanbaatar. I apologize to the capital of Mongolia. That's just the way some people are. If I see injustice, and if I see things which I believe to be false, I feel like I am obligated to say the truth. I can't explain why, even if at my own detriment. What am I doing this for? Like, it's to the detriment of my life. And I've had these conversations at length with the people close to me, and we're all saying the same thing. It's always been the same way. Humanity's always been the same way. There's been a select, small, few good men up against evil, and evil always outnumbers you. Evil always has more money than you. They always have more power and more influence than you. If you play any video game, when you get to the end boss, he always has more life than you. He always has more hit points, but you're the good guy. And it's kind of like, it's never been any different. At any point in human history, there's been the good guys up against the forces of evil, whatever they were at the time. And you've always been outnumbered, and you've always been supposed to lose.
So you consider yourself the good guy in this situation?
I think that truth is instilled by God in all of us. And I think if you tell the truth, you're a good person.
So who do you think is the bad guy? You know, everyone uses they, them.
The higher ups, the mainstream media, the, you know, well, not really mainstream, the people that control the mainstream media, the people that, you know, profited off of COVID and, you know, use their influence over to, you know, things like that. Those are the they.
They're after me. Who's they?
That's my opinion anyways. It's the people above that use their power to try and control people, whether through what I'm trying to say. I think Andrew has a better explanation than me.
Well, instead of saying who, I will say what I will start by saying is what they do. And what they do is they control information. And we now live in an information society, and by controlling information, they control how people think and act and react to things. So that's all they have to do. They have to control information, and they have to be very selective with what they allow you to talk about, what they allow you to discuss, and what they don't. And once they can do that, they can keep you bickering about garbage, and they can control the sensitive information, and then they run the world. So having all the information controlled and having this hard barrier on what can be discussed, that's how they can purport absolute fallacies. I think now it's been a couple of years, we can probably talk about it. They psyoped the world into believing they should be afraid of the common cold. They psyoped the world.
Oh, he's clearly talking about COVID. I think we're going to skip this, not because it's bad or anything. I don't remember if the YouTube rules allow for this. Also, COVID's been like hammered like 1,000 times, and it's not that interesting to me anymore. So I think we'll try to skip ahead. I think we'll try and get into like more of the personal stuff.
A little bit of Romania, Trump. We'll cover what you're talking about with
new. What it does is confirm everything you already know. It confirms everything you know about the reality of the outside world, that you need to be physically strong so that you're not attacked by others, and mentally strong so you're not attacked by yourself. You learn who's on your side and who isn't. You learn who's a coward and who's not. You learn who's an opportunist. And
Sorry, I was looking to see if they had timestamps.
You certainly learn a lot about the people around you when you go to a jail cell, that's for sure. But I remember...
let me back up since I cleared.
But you managed to surpass it again. How'd you do it? What's the magic ingredient? And I ended up making friends with them. Like I had grandmas in there, the old ladies cooking the food. Trying to erode all of that, because once that's gone, then your brain is...
Be a little bit of Romania,
Okay,
Trump.
there we go.
We'll cover what you're talking about with.
Anyways, I'll try and skip like less the non-interesting parts, in my opinion. When I watched this, I really wanted to, hear about his life, his jail life and his view on religion and whatnot. And I think I might focus on those for this live stream. If you really want to watch the entire video, which I recommend, the interview, it was a really good interview from what I watched, and I watched most of it, not all of it, on the PBD Podcast, Andrew Tate exclusive interview. So I highly recommend it. Here's okay, they don't have it, but yeah, but basically that's it. So I highly recommend it. Like I said, this is a 4, so I'm probably not gonna live stream now. But here we go. This is what we're gonna get into first. Is his time in jail. I found it very interesting listening to him talk about his time in jail. Another interesting thing that he talks about later on is his relationship with his brother. We'll definitely watch that too, because I found that very interesting. I'd like to talk about it, but I'll wait till it gets there. Anyways, let's continue.
It's funny you're saying monopoly on power. Monopoly on power. If you abuse it, now YouTube's turning around and saying, "Hey, you can talk about the election. We're no longer going to give the strike." So that doesn't work forever. First thing I want to talk about, I think the audience would like to know, for you and Tristan, 92 days in the dungeon, you're in jail, your experience in there, we keep hearing about it, we read about it, but what was it like for you guys being in there?
So I'll start by saying, and I have to make this clear, that the staff in the jail was certainly nice.
There's something I want to say when it comes to the Tate brothers, is even though they've been doing this, and this may be, you could probably say it's probably a ploy, so they can be in better standing with the Romanian government or whatever, but they haven't talked much shit about this. Like, they haven't even insulted the prosecutor, and I think that's something very rare you see nowadays. Is someone not talking any crap or anything like that. And it's really interesting, and he's going to talk about how he treated the staff and everything like that. Which, again, I think it was very interesting. Like everyone paints Andrew in this, sort of light, how he's an evil, horrible man. But, if now, obviously, in this instance, we only have his word about it. But, I can believe it. But anyways, treat everyone that, when you interview like Jay Waller, Fresh and Fit, I think even Brett Cooper, everyone else that knows Andrew Tate, they always praise how nice he is, and not like in and it's always like it's in context of talking about and stuff, but it's they just always praise like how kind he is to individuals and all that stuff, and it's just interesting to see someone of his caliber, because whether you like him or not, he is a fairly successful individual, but he doesn't he treats people well, and I think that's something rare that we don't see nowadays is people that treat people well.
They were very apologetic. The vibe was apologetic. Nobody was really treating you like a criminal. There were a few guys who were icy cold, I guess you could call them. They like to think of themselves as professional, but they were just inhuman. But over time, they warmed up, and I was exceptionally nice also to all the staff. Jail was terrible. I'm going to start by saying jail was terrible, and I was miserable inside of the jail cell. It's a good thing depression isn't real.
Now, this is something. Okay, hold on.
Depressed. But
Now, I disagree with Andrew here. I do think depression is real. He says it a lot, but I think what he actually means when he says depression is not real is, I think what he actually means is depression is only affects you if you allow it. If you don't allow depression to affect you, then it's not real. I think that's what he generally means when he talks about this. And I could be 100% wrong, but that's what I think whenever he says depression isn't real. I think he's talking about like how depression affects you. Like everyone's been depressed and upset, sad, blah 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 blah. But how you let it affect you really just really shows how real it really is. Like if you're bummed out, but then and you have plans maybe to go to the gym or do something, but because you're so sad and bummed out, then you don't end up doing it. Then depression's real and it affects you. Affects you pretty much. It affects you really well. But if you're sad and bummed out, but you still get up and then you go do whatever you plan to do that way, whether it was to the gym or hang out with friends, whatever, and you just don't let it affect you, then it's not real. Even though you're feeling it's not real because you're not letting it control you. I think that's what he generally means when he's talking about depression not being real. But I could be wrong.
I think in life that you get what you give, and I wanted to feel happier, so I tried my very best to make people happy. So when the old lady would bring me my food, I would sit and say, "Oh, this is the best food I've ever had. I've never had food."
Let's be honest, that jail food was shit. Let's be honest.
Did you cook this? I thought yesterday was the best, but you managed to surpass it again. How'd you do it? What's the magic ingredient? And I ended up making friends with them. Like I had grandmas in there, the old ladies cooking food. And by trying to make people happy and smile all the time, I started to feel a lot happier. But it's kind of scary. And I think the scariest thing about jail was the uncertainty of it. If they would have said to me, "You're in jail for 92 days, or even 5 years, you got 5 years. Cool, I'll do my time." But when you're nabbed and thrown in a cell without charge, you're like, "Well, how long is this my life? Is this it now? Is this the end of the story? I'm just in this cell." And I was picked up on 29th of December. I went through this quick.
And that's pretty true. Like, if you have a time clock of how long, whatever it's going to be, no matter how long it is, you have something to look forward to. You have the days to count off. You got a way to manage that. But if you don't know and you have no way of knowing, then that's, it's really hard. And I think it's really it'll shake you a little bit if you don't know, time is very important to human beings. Time allows us to, it allows us to live. Well, it doesn't allow us to live, but it helps us go through the day. All right. When you say, like he said, all right, you're jailed for 5 years. Obviously you'd fight it and everything. Hold on. You'd fight him. But let's say he was jailed for 5 years. It was convicted, upheld, blah, 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 fucking blah. Then he's like, all right, in 5 years, this is what I'm going to do. Here's my plan for the next 5 years. Here's my plan after the 5 years. And it kind of helps you manage those 5 years. That's just how I see it. Anyways. Quick court case
Like I said, I'm inside of the jurisdiction of Romania, so I have to be very careful with what I say because the case is ongoing and we're in Romania and I can't leave Romania. But obviously, Romanian court is in Romanian by law. So you're marched into this room. Everyone speaks a language you don't understand for 15 minutes, and then you're marched off to jail. Look, what even happened? What even happened to me? And they said, oh, here's the paper that explains it. I was like, that's in Romanian. And they said, oh, don't worry, you'll get a translation to English by law. I was like, okay, that's fine. But because I was picked up on the 29th of December and there was New Year's Eve and holidays, it was 2 weeks before I even knew why I was in jail. 2 solid weeks I'm in jail. No one told me in English why I'm in jail. I had no idea what the charge.
Can they do that?
By law, you get it on the piece of paper in English, but it's translation, it's holiday, we need to find a translator, it's a delay.
And you speak zero Romanian.
Zero. So they said, oh, yeah.
It's kind of interesting how he doesn't know any Romanian, but he's lived there for many years. And I know, like, he's just done a video about it, how his father's like, why are you trying to learn another language? You don't know English, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I mean, for the most part, you can get it by, like, anywhere with English. But if I was going to live somewhere for a long amount of time, I'd try and learn their language. That's just me personally. I just think it's strange as well.
Human trafficking. What do you mean human trafficking? Who? When? What? What is this? Took 2 weeks before I finally got a piece of paper, and then I realized what garbage it truly was. I mean, I knew it was garbage, but I was like, this is complete garbage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have endless stories from jail. It was certainly. I don't think jail teaches you much new. What it does is confirm everything you already know. It confirms everything you know about the reality of the outside world, that you need to be physically strong so that you're not attacked by others, and mentally strong so you're not attacked by yourself. You learn who's on your side and who isn't. You learn who's a coward and who's not. You learn who's an opportunist and who isn't. Your circle, you certainly learn a lot about the people around you when you go to a jail.
Yeah, it's always said, it's always said that, you really, when you're in real trouble, you know who your friends are, because the people that stick with you are your real friends. So, jail obviously would have that experience, especially with someone like Andrew, who has, like some of us, we may have like 5 or, 6, maybe close friends or whatever. Andrew probably has like, hundreds of people trying to ride his coattails, be his friend, et cetera, et cetera. And so when trouble actually occurs and, he's in trouble and whatnot, then obviously you'll realize who your real friends are. Sorry. Texting my wife. But yeah, in times of trouble, struggle, you learn who your friends are. You learn who has your back. Sorry, talking to my wife. But you learn who has your back and everything like that. You'll learn who sticks with you when times are tough, and you'll learn, who you can depend on. So, times of hardships when you really learn who you are, because it's easy to be around someone when things are going good. It's exceptionally a lot harder, and that harder to stick around when times aren't that great. But yeah, that's why you hear that term, hard times shows you who your real friends are. And that's useful. I think it's really useful, because then you can narrow it down. You can be like, all right, well, I can rely on this person, I can rely on this person I won't give so much energy in and stuff. So, it's good, especially for men in general, to struggle, but it's really good to learn like who you can count on and whatnot.
So that's for sure. But I remember it was New Year's Eve.
I'll be right back.
When I first picked up on the 29th of December, I was very sure I'd be out 24 hours.
Be real back. I just got to lock my front door. All right, I'm back.
There's no way they're going to keep for what? Like this doesn't make sense. So finally, New Year's Eve rolls around, and I'm sitting in the jail cell by myself. And in Romanian jail, you don't leave the room. It's not like an American jail where there's a yard or anything.
God, that must really suck. Just like, at least like he's talking about now in American jail, you get here, let me finish it and then I'll talk. I got complained last time I did a video doing one of these reactions, so let me try that.
Stuck in the 3x4, and that's your existence. You just stay in
Are you by yourself?
24 hours a day. At the beginning, I was by
Okay, there's a cut there, so obviously they probably cut it, but for timing. But anyways, yeah. So I mean, that really must suck. Like in American jail, you get to go in the yard, interact, talk to other prisoners, shit like that. I guess in Romanian jail, you don't even get that. You're stuck in your room, and at first he's going to talk about this later. But at first he was alone, then he got Tristan. And I'm sure with Tristan it was a little better. But yeah, that really sucks. I mean, at least here in America, if you go to jail, you can like go work out with gym equipment, interact with prisoners, even though they're, a bunch of garbage people and stuff. So that should really suck. Anyways.
myself. And you're stuck in this room, and I'm sitting there. It's New Year's Eve, and there's a very faint speaker, maybe way down the hallway. The guards must have been having a little party for New Year's Eve. And there's this awful song. It's called the Ketchup Song. I don't know if you know what it is. I don't want to sing it, but it goes, hey, hey. That super annoying song. And I'm sitting there, and I know it's New Year's Eve because the fireworks start going off. And I'm looking out my tiny window. I can just hear in the very long distance from the end of the hallway, hey, hey. And I'm sitting there looking out the window like, this can't be it. This can't be the end of my life. Even the cockroaches all over the walls didn't celebrate. There's maybe 15 cockroaches on the walls, right? And when it struck 12 and the fireworks went off, I kind of like, well, who's my friends in here? The cockroaches. I looked at them, even they didn't. So it's New Year's. It's funny because before that, a couple days before that, me and Tristan were discussing, do we want to do New Year's in Dubai? Do we want to go Courchevel? Shall we go Miami? We're all arguing, oh, that will be boring. Now that's too far. We had all these grandeur plans. Oh, finally we decided to go to Dubai. We were in Czech Republic at the time, and we decided to go to Dubai. And I said, let's stop in Romania so I can repack the suitcase.
That's it. That's the only reason.
That's the only reason.
How crazy is that? Like the only reason, and everyone talks about that stupid Greta Thunberg shit and all that, but how crazy is that? Is like the only reason they were in jail for over New Year's is just because Andrew wanted to pack a suitcase. How crazy is that? Like that's the reason, because otherwise they would have had to wait. The Romanian government would have had to wait till like after New Year's, when the next time they came back into the country, whenever that was. And for anyone who doesn't know, like the Romanian government knew they were there, and it wasn't because of Greta Thunberg. Every time you enter a country, you got to get your passport scanned and all that stuff, and so the Romanian government would know, the second he landed. And flight plans. Don't forget about that. You got to log flight plans and everything. So like the second they landed, or actually the second they logged in, they logged a flight plan. Their private jet logged a flight plan, and they arrived and they took off. They knew what time they most likely arrive and everything like that. And they all right, we got double confirmation thanks to the passports and all that. So clearly the Romanian government was waiting for them to arrive in country, and they set it up if they were able to do it all in one day. It wasn't because of Greta Thunberg that everyone likes to think, because they're morons. But it's crazy how like that's the only reason they were in jail on that, got arrested on the 29th, just because Andrew wanted to pack a suitcase so they could go to Dubai and celebrate New Year's. Next time, I'm sure he'll just, I'll just buy everything I need in there.
So jet left Prague, landed in Romania. My jet was still on the runway. Came here overnight to pack a suitcase, spent the night, spoke to Greta with a pizza box, and it's 5 a.m. to go before I flew back to Dubai. So that was
The infamous Greta pizza box situation.
Greta pizza box.
How much you think there's anything linked to Greta? Is there anything, because the timing of it?
Yeah, I don't think she specifically said
Of course.
But there are certainly people within the Matrix machine that you can't attack without catching flack for. There's certainly protected people. It's absolutely and utterly a club, and you're either in the club or you're outside the club. She's certainly in the club, right? So if you say certain things about certain people, or you get a beef with X amount of people, or you discredit a certain person, they're going to try very hard to teach you a lesson for doing it. And you can see very clearly who's in the club and who isn't by the Philip Schofield situation. This is a man who has groomed boys and had sex with them, but he's in the club. All of the media headlines after 2 days are, let's have compassion, feel sorry for him, his mother's upset. They've attacked me for 14 months, day after day after day, and they relentlessly attack me. Nobody talks about my mental health. Nobody gives a shit how I feel. I didn't do any of the things he did. He's actually done things. I haven't done anything. But when you're in the club, you're protected by the media. When you're not in the club, you're attacked by the media. And that's how it simply works. You're either on our side or you're not. But to join their side, you have to sell your soul. Your sanity has a price. Your sanity is for sale. You have to sell it. You have to come along with your sanity, take out your mind and say, here you go. Take my sanity. I'll take 35 million. Yes, that is a woman. Yes, protect me. It's insane. And the reason these people join these clubs is because they know they're doing bad things and they feel they need protection. The reason I stand up and argue against all this shit is because I know I don't have skeletons in my closet. You think I'd be on the internet talking like I talk and fighting the Matrix if I had skeletons in my closet, if I was actually a bad person? I've been investigated as deeply as a person can be investigated by multiple federal agencies for 14 months. I was locked in a jail cell and 2,000 people I know was called. My barber, my old housekeeper from when I lived in England 9 years ago, my gardener I used to have in another country I lived in. Everybody was called. And people were offered bribes effectively. The media are calling girls saying, if you have a bad story to tell about Andrew, we can pay you $30,000 if you have a bad story. That's a bribe. That's a bribe. And they still couldn't find anyone. Still, I've been investigated to a deeper level than 99.9% of people you'll cross on the street.
That's a really good point. Like honestly, like, you know, just, you know, even yourselves, like if you're watching, people who end up watching this, probably not many, but you know, just think about it. Like, you know, I think there's some sort of saying like the average American breaks like, you know, 100 laws a day or something like that. They break it like, you know, a certain amount of laws a day, and they don't get prosecuted for it and all this stuff. But you know, that's his point is the fact that, you know, if you look into anyone's lives, they've broken a law or two at least, you know, a couple times. You could find dirt on just about everyone, and it speaks volume again to Andrew's and Tristan's character. It speaks volumes to it because, you know, all these people, and they couldn't really find anyone that would, you know, that says a negative word. The BBC had to like make up 2 people. I did a couple videos on that, or Sophie and Eve. They had to make up a couple people just to get that, basically, just to get someone to say something negative about Andrew. And I'm not talking about like the YouTubers and all that stuff. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the, you know, individuals in Andrew's life that actually have met Andrew, talked to Andrew, you know, done business with Andrew, the women, you know, sleep with Andrew. It's 2 people. Like the case basically rests on generally 2 people that we've caught that been shown to have been lying about it. And yeah, that's actually the case, the Romanian case. Like even the rape charge got thrown out. And I'll be honest, I didn't even know there was one. I'm just adjusting myself, I'm like hunched over. Anyways, but yeah, that's how the case is generally. Oh, my brother's 6 feet. So that's generally how it's going. Oh, shit. Yeah. That's how the case is. Sorry, I got distracted. That's how the case is it relies pretty much on 2 people. I mean, there's 5 victims, but you know, according to Andrew, like 3 of those, or no, it's 7 victims, but he says like the 5 of them are saying no, we're not victims at all, but they're being treated like victims, and then the 2, it's been shown and proven that they're lying. And that's how much the case rests on. And then the BBC had to like make up. Oh, I'm sorry, not make up. They found 2 women, and another 3 have been found, unnamed, of course, in Britain, and are trying to civilly sue Andrew. He's not being charged with a crime in Britain, but he's being sued. And if you watch my video from when I discussed this, a civil lawsuit has a lower threshold than criminal, at least in America. I don't know the lawsuit or the laws in England, but I think it's fairly close. At the very least, it's the threshold. It's still the threshold is, it's a lot higher for actually charging someone with a crime than it is to sue them civilly or a civil case. So that's really important to note. Excuse me, sorry. But yeah, again, it talks about Andrew's character that they couldn't find like a really many people to say a negative thing about him. And again, I'm talking about the people that actually have interacted with him. There's not many people that were able to say a negative thing. And I think that's really interesting.
And they're saying I'm guilty and I'm a bad person. You go get 20 men off the street and put them through what I've been through. You'll find more crimes than you've ever found with me. Absolute clown world. It's insane. And if I was part of the club, none of this would be happening. The media would be on my side. They wouldn't be hitting me this hard. They wouldn't be lying about me. All I had to do was sell my soul and sell my sanity, and I refused. And they're trying to punish me for it. That's what's happening.
It's funny you say this. When we watched the BBC interview with Musk, right? And he goes up and the guy opens up the question with, why'd you agree to do this interview? He says, well, I don't know. What's the name of the BBC? And he's trying to mock them and all this stuff. And there's a part of it where, he calls them out for the mistakes they made. And if you go to the bottom of the interview on BBC, you'll see comment section saying, why'd you cut that out? Because Musk puts it on Twitter, but they didn't put it in the interview. Then you watch the interview with you. The first question they ask you was, what's the first question? Hey, you've been accused of
serious crimes,
rape or something like that. Right off the bat, they asked that question of you. And then you see the interview, Lucy Williamson, I believe, her first question was, you're facing some very serious allegations. Have you raped anybody? That's the open question that they ask you. And the video they put up, the first one, they take it down. The second video they put up, that's 12 minutes, like the highlight one, they turn, the comment section is open. There's 80,000 plus comments there. Then you look at Philip Schofield. You just brought up Philip Schofield. For people that don't know who Philip Schofield, do you mind explaining to people who he is?
Yeah, he was a TV presenter in England. He was very famous. He ran the morning show. And he was grooming children for a very long time, and all the staff knew about it.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to skip this because again, it's not that interesting to me, and this is my stream, so I get to decide what's interesting and what's on. But yeah, he's basically just going to outline the vast difference between him and someone that's I guess his brother's not only charged with pedophilia, but also he's been there's been many people that came out and say, yeah, he's a bit of a pedophile. And I guess he just recently came out as gay. So he tried to Kevin Spacey them. And so, yeah, and the media is not going as hard as they are with this Schofield guy as they are with Andrew Tate. And, I think, and they mentioned this in the interview. The biggest difference between the two of them, obviously there's a lot of differences, but the biggest one is the fact that this guy's, there's more people that are, agreeing or accusing the Schofield guy or whatever, not accusing, but it's basically been more or less proven. And there isn't back to what I was saying there's more people accusing the Schofield guy of this than there are of Andrew Tate. And because honestly, Andrew Tate's been accused this human trafficking bullshit. He has zero accusers because 5 of them, again, are saying, no, we're not victims. And 2 are actually lying. It's been proven already that they're lying. So that's all I'm going to point about that. I'm going to skip this part. Need my glasses. Can't see that far, but I'm going to skip this part because I don't find it that interesting.
Who worked on the show. The affair was motivated partly because of my homo
herself. She was begging me for an interview. The BBC
did something. Why are they taking this guy? He must have done something. There must have been something there, right? It's stuff like this BBC does. If BBC, you're watching this right now, I want to kind of remind you of your mission statement that you have on your website. We're going to put the link below to your mission statement. You can go find it. Here's what your mission statement is, BBC. This is why you've lost some credibility the last couple of years. To act in public interest, serving all audiences through the provision of impartial, keyword impartial, high quality and distinctive output and services which inform educate, and entertain. You say you inform, educate, you entertain, yet you conceal, misinform, and your content's quite frankly boring. You're cherry picking on people. So
He called them boring. He's like, the BBC, you're boring. Yeah, the only interesting interview the BBC's done is the only interesting video the BBC's done is sorry, I'm just laughing at that because that was really funny. Yeah, the only interesting video interview the BBC's done like that I know of was the Andrew Tate one, and they got owned on it. Anyways,
a message like that gets the average person to say, everything with you is allegedly, everything he did is proven. His brother is proven, yet let's leave him alone. Poor guy, let's target him. This is where their argument has leaks in it. And somebody like you can tear it up.
Absolutely. Philip is part of the club, and I'm not. And this is the thing. I'm a mentally resilient person, right? 14 months they've attacked me. I'm not going to sit and complain about that because that's not how I operate as a man. 14 months they've complained about me. If you type in Romania, human trafficking, you type in any of these things, my name comes up, my face, I'm a bad person. I've lost all my bank accounts. I've lost all my social media accounts. I've been vilified all across the matrix in every single possible way. They print my face every single day with something negative next to it daily. Nobody gives a shit about my mental health, right? Because I'm the enemy. And what's scary about this is Lucy Williamson herself, she was begging me for an interview. The BBC were begging me for an interview. I don't need any of these people. The only reason I even sat down with the BBC is because they were begging me. I can go and just say my own words and get plenty of views, right? But the whole time I was in jail, they're begging me for an interview. Can we speak to him on the phone? Maybe we can get an interview from jail. Can we have an interview? Please, 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 please. And I was saying, why do I want to talk to the BBC? And the BBC were saying, no, we don't want to do a hit piece. We want to come across and we want to be impartial.
This is what they're telling me.
This is what they're telling me. We want to be impartial.
sorry, I'm going to cut it in again. But yeah, it's the reason they wanted to do an interview via the phone is because, and they were begging him all that time on the phone and everything like that. It's just so they can take his words out of context. No matter and it's smart that Andrew didn't do that interview. I'm sure he knew, obviously, that if he did this interview, then guess what? They would have taken him out of context. They would have chopped it up like they did. They did like what, an hour or so long video interview. An hour or so long interview, and my train of thought. But yeah, they did an hour or so long interview, and then they cut it into 12 minutes. Like, come on. Like, obviously, they would have done the same with any phone call interview. So it was really smart that he didn't do that interview.
We believe there's a side of the story that hasn't been told. We're really interested in some of the, let's say, what's the word? I don't want to get this wrong. Inconsistencies in the Romanian justice system. We're very interested in his side of the story. There's been enough hit pieces. We want to tell the other side. We want to hear Andrew Tate's story. And I said, no, on repeat. Then they sent me a list of questions. I didn't even ask for a list of questions. That's not who I am. I don't have to script. I never ask for a list of questions. They sent me a list of questions. Here's what we're going to ask. It's about his mental health. It's about the Romanian justice system. It's about the fact he hasn't been charged. His liberty's been deprived. All this stuff. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe it's a bit interesting. And the Matrix is obviously printing lies about me. And these are some interesting questions from the Matrix for the first time ever. Okay. They walk in here all smiles and happy, all smiley faces trying to take me off guard. I already have my list of questions, right? It's all going to be nice and easy. I sit down and they instantly attack me. They put the cameras on first and they attack me, expecting me to stutter and make a fool of myself. It's kind of like they tried to sucker punch me. I'm in the club and they're my friends shaking my hand and they tried to hit me and knock me out. And this is the thing that's so amazing about it. Yes, I destroyed the BBC. Well, of course I did, because I'm smarter than all of them. But why should I have to rely on my wit and intellect to destroy BBC with their research team and their plan, their deliberate plan to try and annihilate not only my credibility, but my life? They are trying to put me back in jail, these people. They're not dishonest. They're genuinely evil, and they don't give a shit. And so why should I even sit there and entertain them? I believe I could slit every single sucker punch they throw at me for the rest of human time. I could sit with any of these clowns. And no matter who they sit with their research team, whatever garbage they come up with, I'll make a fool of all of them. But why?
That's really true. If you really think about it, I'm sorry, I cut it in a little whatever. Anyways, but that's really true. because if you look, if you watch any of his videos, he really does very well in them. Like any of his interviews, not videos, sorry, interviews, any of his interviews, he does really well. He I don't think he really gets he gets tripped up that much, which is you gotta give the guy props whether you like him or not.
Why am I even entertaining them anymore? What's the point? That was the last chance I gave mainstream media. They lied for months to get that interview. Completely dishonest, head to toe. And like you said, they sit with Philip. Are you okay? Are you okay? We heard your mom's upset, that poor old lady. Maybe everyone should stop talking about it because his mom's upset. Let's not talk about it anymore because his mother's old. You're either part of the club or you're not. You have to sell your sanity nowadays. If you sell your sanity, you're afforded protections. That's the reality of it, because if you're a sane thinking person, you don't buy their bullshit. And that's what upsets them. They don't want anybody who thinks for themselves. They need you to they want you to believe exactly what's on the television screen. Believe in COVID. It's COVID now. It's COVID now. Oh, Putin's invaded Ukraine. Putin's cured COVID now. Now it's Ukraine. It's insane. Till the next thing comes. It's absolutely asinine.
Did any of the questions that they sent you ahead of time?
Zero.
By the way, we didn't. There was no.
No, that's not how we operate.
Asked us ahead of time whatsoever. Did they ask you any of the questions they
Zero.
said they were going to ask you?
Zero. They start with an attack and it became a battle instantly.
Did they ask you at any point what jail was like?
Zero.
What your mental health was like?
Zero.
How, you completely missed the mark when everyone wants to know what was jail like.
Well,
but they don't even ask you that question.
But this is what's so interesting about it. These people are so detached from reality, because they are genuinely detached from reality. They think that finding a video I made 8 years ago, a 4-hour speech I made 8 years ago, and finding one line of it without context that can be misconstrued, they think that sitting down with me and saying that to me is an aha moment. Nobody cares, because you're taking it out of context, one. And I said you're taking things out of context. She goes, I'm not taking it out of context. I said, if you're presenting it without context, that's taking it out of context. That's what it is. You're lying by omission. I said that to her after the camera's off, and she looked at me because she didn't understand. When you omit details,
I'll be right back. I gotta do something real quick.
All of the details, you can lie.
All right, sorry, I had to do something for my wife. All right.
Lie by including one detail which may happen to be true. You can tell the truth and miss all the details around the truth, and you are lying by omission. You're lying by omission. And you're sitting here saying, oh, you said this 8 years ago. Nobody cares, because they know me, and they know I didn't mean it in that way, and they know it's taken out of context, and they know that it's an old video on the internet, and it's not even an aha moment they think it is. But they just want to sit with you for an hour, attack you and attack you and attack you, wait for you to make one mistake. If I would have stuttered or made a single mistake, that's the only 3 minutes they would have shot. That's all they want. They want that 1 hour, and they take the little bit. With me, they cut it down to 12 minutes and look terrible in all of it. But if I would have made a single mistake, would have been the only thing they shown. That's all they care about. Fake news.
Did you tell?
All right, sorry. Trying to time these better so I don't do it right in the middle of something. That's really true. If you watch the hit piece that Vice News did on Andrew, that's exactly what they did. They cut a piece up to make it look like he stuttered. So that's all they're really interested in he's completely right. If he had made one mistake or whatever, that's all they would have shown. And the same with a lot of these people, like, like Abba and Preach and shit like that. They'll like cut up a bit and like their response video, like back on just talking about Abba and Preach real quick, just back on their response video, which I think they took down. I may be wrong, but I think they took that down. No, they took the one before that down. But the response video to Fresh and Fit, they took like a 2, 3, 4 hour podcast. They only reacted to the last 30 minutes of it. Like, come on. It's so dishonest. Yeah, but they only reacted to the last 30 minutes, and then they let's see. Yeah, they reacted to the last 30 minutes, and that's all they did. Like, they didn't even refute any of the arguments made or anything like that. It was just like those 30 minutes were all that really mattered. And they didn't even show that much. And even the video before that, they didn't really do anything. They didn't refute. They just like took part of the snippets, and they just talked about like, the fighting part and shit like that. So, it's the same with the mainstream media. All they're going to do is just take little bits of it and that's it. Like, that's all they can really do. Because if they show the full context of something, all that's going to end up happening is you're going to have more people agree with that person. Like, because, when you show the full context and you're like, all right, I understand why. Because I think a lot of people are idiots, but I think there's just as many or maybe more that are fairly reasonable about that. If you show them the full context of something and, you hear what the person says, then you kind of understand them. And you whether you end up still disagreeing with that person, you can at least like, all right, I can see where they're coming from when they're just talking about X. But nowadays we live in an age now where, context doesn't matter to people. And it's all that matters is how I feel about something.
Tell them, did you say I'm only doing this if I'm able to record as well?
I said that.
I know that's what happened with Trump as well a couple of years ago.
I didn't even tell them. I just recorded it.
Okay, so they didn't know you were recording.
They didn't know I was recording until afterwards, and then I said, that was dishonest. I'm going to release the whole video.
You told them before you released it.
I told them.
There is no contract or agreement with BBC.
No.
Nothing was signed. It was just simply an interview. Okay. Because I think that was very important when you released it for people to see what fully was said versus, and by the way, the Philip Schofield interview that they put up, the 12-minute one that just came out, the comments are turned off.
Of course they are.
The comments are turned off. Yours are turned on. His is turned off. And
because if they had turned on the Schofield guy, because people have a lot of problems with pedophilia, like a lot. Let me rephrase that. Normal people have a lot of problems with it. Normal people have problems with pedophilia and all that stuff. That you got these new people, blue hairs, YouTubers, whatnot, that try and excuse this crap, and it's stupid. It's really stupid. Like, no, there's no justification. There's no moral good to it. It's no. They should be jailed or worse. Anyways, sorry.
And
I have a 2-year-old daughter, and so shit like this really annoys me. Pedophiles and stuff, and the fact that we don't like eviscerate them when it's proven. Maybe not in not in a court of law, but I don't know. It's kind of different. Even in a court of law, people still try to. I don't know much about this Schofield guy, so I don't think it's actually proven beyond a shadow of doubt he's actually done it. I think it's just accusations. So maybe I'm just being a little unfair for the guy. Pedophilia is probably a blind spot for me. Anyways, continue.
Who knows many reasons why they would do that. But going back to BBC. So, okay, they come, they want to ask the questions of you. For some of the people that maybe aren't following the story closely, but they know who you are. We're in the car, we're driving, and a lot of people are asking questions. We ask the drivers, like, hey, are you going to Tate's place? How do you know we're going to Tate's place? And he says, well, who's Tate? Oh, Andrew Tate. Oh, tell us about Andrew Tate. Well, this is okay. What kind of a guy is he? He said, I actually really like him. I said, why do you think he's going through what he's going through? Oh, it's always because of money. Okay, so we're at a different restaurant. So tell us, why are you going through this? Why is he going? Everybody's saying a similar thing about this, right? But for those who don't know, there's 3 different camps. Yeah. The camp that already sees you guilty, it doesn't matter what they read. So, for example, this story here, from BBC came out just last night, 10:30. Andrew Tate choked me until I passed that UK woman claims, right? This is Alice, another.
Sorry, I did a video on this. It's not Alice, and they correct it later on. It's not Alice. It's Eve or Evie or some shit like that. It's another fake one. It's another Sophie, basically. BBC found another Sophie. It's Eve, no-faced woman, and all that stuff.
Other anonymous name, just like Sophie, right? But there's three camps. There's those that say, well, look, I'm already thinking he's guilty. I don't like him anyways. I need anything to get me to think he's guilty. Whatever it takes. I don't have to do my own due diligence. I just have to hear anything. Then there's a camp that's a diehard fan. There's nothing you can do that they did wrong. In their eyes, going to be wrong. Then you have the people in the middle that are the reasonable ones that are saying, you know what, let me look at this. What about this? What about that? The people in the middle may say the following question. They may say, and I may have asked this question from you last time as well. They may say, Andrew, okay, if this guy is so innocent, how can they get you to go to the dungeon for 92 days? How can they put you on house arrest? How can they do all this stuff? Yeah. If you're somebody that was born in U.S., you lived in UK, how come somebody else isn't coming to bail you out? You got different lawyers. How is it that they can keep doing this to you if you're not guilty? What do you say to those people?
Yeah, and once again, I have to be careful what I say because of the court case. But Romania has a law where the law in Romania is basically, if you can prove to a judge that it might have happened, they're allowed to hold you up to 6 months during the investigation stage. If I was guilty of anything, I would have been charged long ago. And we're going to talk about charges soon because I still believe they're going to attempt to charge me. But we're now approaching the end of the 6 months they can keep me under a form of arrest for without charge. Typically in Romania, when I was first arrested, the guard said, within 2 weeks, you'll have your indictment. I was like, 2 weeks? He goes, yeah, everyone gets charged quickly. Nobody waits 6 months for a charge. If they arrest you, they charge you, like every other country, right? The fact they've waited 6 months and gone into my entire life and attempted to find something shows they don't have a case. Why I believe it happened is because...
All right, just one cut. Yeah, so it's a very good point that you made was, he has yet to be charged. And, a lot of, like, when PBD, Patrick Bet David, I think his name is, was talking about, the reasonable people who were like, well, why can he, have been charged? What people think is like, well, how can they put you in jail and, you're not, and if you're not guilty of something, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, the thing is, Romania has different laws. And, since they have different laws, they can do a lot more, or not a lot more, but they have different laws in the U.S. A lot of people just think that, the U.S. is just like everywhere else. And if you do something in the U.S., or if it does, I'm not explaining this well. But what he was talking about is those people who think, how can, he be in jail, put in dungeon, all that stuff if he wasn't guilty of something. And, Andrew, explained it. But those people just think of, things like, the justice systems are just like, everywhere else are just like America, and they're vastly different, generally speaking. They're very different, and this is a problem with a lot of Americans is they don't really understand that the world doesn't operate like America, the legal justice system. Like if Andrew was in America and this happened, he would have been given the bail and all that. He wouldn't have been, if he wasn't charged, and if he wasn't charged with a crime. Let me rephrase that. If he hadn't been charged, he wouldn't go to jail in the first place. He wouldn't have been able to get arrested. He'd have to he could have been arrested, but he wouldn't have been gone to a trial, court, or anything like that. There'd be nothing. They could have brought him in for some question shit. And I think maybe 72 hours at most they have before they can charge someone. And I believe that's what it is in America. But they have like a certain amount of time, but it's far less than 6 months. And that's a big difference than, a Romania where Andrew just explained, how Romania is different. And so I think that's the problem, with what PD's like, the people that PBD was talking about were those reasonable people wondering that. It's just, they don't travel very far. So they don't understand how other things work.
Because they didn't have a case when they were trying to hit me with this garbage, and they thought, you know what? If we put him all over the news, if we slander his name completely, there was a hotline set up. If you're a girl who's been hurt by Andrew Tate, call this number in the UK. A hotline. So they were attempting to use the media to find what they wanted. Months go by, case file's empty, nothing's happening. My lawyer was saying, when are we going to close this case file? Like, yeah, we're just waiting for some papers. We're going to close it, Around the time I was canceled, things started appearing in the case file. They started spying on me. Very interesting that it happened around that time. I don't know if they understood that I wasn't protected by the political class of the USA. I don't know what happened. They started to build this case, and they spied on me for all of these months, spending millions of euros, spying on me everywhere I went, trying to find evidence of a crime. Eventually, they get to the end of their legal limit to spy on me, and they don't have any crime. They don't have anything. So in my current court case, we have two Americans who lied, the ones who we have the conversations between them saying they're going to get an Oscar for lying to the police. We have the CCTV of them coming and going. We have their Uber records showing they can travel the country freely. We have their phone calls with their mother where they're saying, yeah, he didn't hurt me, and my boyfriend caught me. We have all of it. We have all the evidence. We have those two. And then there's nobody else who could possibly even take the stand. I don't believe, as high level as this Matrix attack is, I still don't believe a Romanian judge is going to put me in jail with the dossiers. I've seen it. It's garbage. I don't think I'm going to end up in jail. But it's just taking years of my life, damaging my influence, having bad things to say about me, keeping me under control, keeping me locked in a house. That's all they want to do. They have no interest in the truth. There's no victims. There's no one to take the stand.
Do you know who Sophie is or Alice is or no?
Yeah, so the BBC,
Allie?
That's really interesting. So then the BBC says, well, we found victims, because the BBC have done enough investigative journalism to understand that the case is garbage and there's no victims. So they said, well, we found victims. They found one called Sophie first. That was a few months ago. I think I was still in jail when Sophie appeared.
Is that her real name?
No, that's her fake name. So they have a girl with a fake name called Sophie. They don't show her face. They ask me, what do you think about Sophie? How can I comment on Sophie when Sophie isn't real? Firstly, you've made her up. Secondly, I don't know who you're talking about. You're saying that 9 years ago, I was emotionally controlling? That is the most subjective garbage accusation. What does that mean? 9 years ago, I said you shouldn't party with those guys in the club. Is that what I said? I don't know what I said. I don't know who she is, if she exists at all. And they're saying 9 years ago, you were emotionally controlling. Sophie said so. Who's Sophie? We're not telling you. What's emotionally controlling mean? We're not telling you. What comment do you want me to? If this person even exists, which they don't, then I destroy the BBC, make it very clear to them that Sophie doesn't exist on repeat, because she doesn't. And 2 days later, Alice appears. What's interesting about this is that DCAT, the federal agency inside of Romania, along with help from international partners, have tried so hard, spending millions of euros with federal level tools to find a victim so they can put me in jail. And they can't find anyone. But the BBC just pulls them up whenever they want. The BBC.
Sorry.
Where do these people come from? And I say this every single time. If anybody believes they've been wrong, male or female, by me, go to the police. Go to the police. I encourage you to go to the police. All these people say, we don't want to go to the police. We just want to stay on the news. What, is that because you're not real? Is that why?
No. It's well, I mean, yes, they're not real, but they're definitely real. Or I don't know. These two people, Sophie and Alice, they're most likely not real. They're fake. Or they're lying, whatever. But no, the reasoning is, like I said, is the threshold for a civil lawsuit is a lot lower than it is for a criminal charges. That's generally why they're going to go with the lawsuit ways, because you need less evidence for a civil lawsuit than you would. The threshold is a lot lower. So that's why it's obvious that, you know, all this is just bull, because, you know, they're not going to charge him, but they're going to say, oh no, he definitely did this. But I instead of going to the police and getting him charged and getting him put away, no, we're just going to talk to the news. And that's the only reason. Yeah. So, you know, that's generally how it is. You know, when it comes to, like, you know, and, you know, I'm sure there'll be detractors. Well, it's because, you know, the length of the time in between and all that stuff. And so that's why, because there's not much of a case for criminal because it's been so long, blah, blah, blah. Then she shouldn't charge. I really think there should be statute of limitations on some of this stuff. And, you know, I know it's kind of terrible to say that or whatever, but you shouldn't be able to not go to the police for 10, 15 years and whatever, and then show up one day and be like, yeah, now I'm ready to charge them now that they've become rich and famous and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just, yeah, it is.
That's pretty convenient. I mean, I thought I was a bad person. Why don't you go to the cops? Oh, because you have no evidence and it doesn't exist? That's why.
Are all these accusers
Yes.
in the UK, not even in Romania?
Not even in Romania. So Sophie and Alice are supposedly both from the UK. And Alice's story
To
is
correct, it's not Alice. I said Alice. It's Evie or Evie or something like that. Evie.
It's all made up names. is
it's
your
all made
point.
up.
Yes.
So Evie,
Whatever name we want, but
yeah, Evie is saying 13 years ago I choked her or something.
By the way, when is the 6-month time limit?
End of this.
Okay. And can we reference the tweet you just posted a couple days ago?
I want to stay on the
Sure.
first commenting on Evie. You were going to say something about Evie, what she said 10. So she's claiming 10 years ago or 13 years ago, you guys had the consensual sex the first time. She comes back for the second time around. According to the story, she says she was being, your hand was on her throat, strangled me. She was passed out for a minute. And then she came back and she said, I did not approve of the second time having
Sorry,
sex.
turn
after
off my
she was
fan. Oh,
passed
never
out.
mind. Still a little
So
warm.
these stories they're making, and then she says, the guy asked a question saying, how come you didn't do any police report back then? She says, well, because it's not fully rape and it's not that, because it was consensual. I kind of wanted to be there. And I didn't tell anybody about it 6 years later. There's way too many things that doesn't give it credibility for somebody to say, I didn't do anything about it.
Sorry,
6
just
years
Jesse,
later,
my
I told my friends 3 or
fan.
6 years later.
And this is the thing that's scary. If you say to any red-blooded male, 13 years ago you had sex with a woman consensually and she's now unhappy about how that sex. You can get any man on earth can get screwed with that if this person exists at all. And like you said, she refused to go to the police if she exists. And she's saying it was consensual. I think last night they aired it on Newsnight. And they said, "Why are you coming forward now?" And I think this actor, the person, literally said, "Because now he's rich and famous." They literally said those words. That's what they said. Oh, because now he's rich and famous. I think it's unfair. It's asinine. I don't understand.
Okay. But yeah, this is the biggest problem with this. This is the biggest problem with like the whole Me Too shit and everything like that is, you can, have someone doesn't like something, or not doesn't like, but they, girl regrets what happened the night before because, she doesn't like doesn't like who she ended up waking up with or whatever, but it was consensual the entire time. But then she wakes up and has like, that post-nut clarity. And then she's like, well, I'll just, claim that it was, this, and that'll make me feel better. That's the thing too with the, all this crap and stuff. But yeah, he's 100% right when he's talking about like any guy. It just if you're a guy, just think about like every sexual encounter you've had. Any one of those women can come back 10, 20, 30 years later and say, hey, this guy, he did this to me. And although at the time I consented, I actually end up regretting it. And, I wish I didn't do it, blah, 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 whatever bullshit they're trying to say. And you can catch a charge for this. It's completely ridiculous. And even if you can't catch a charge, you can have someone come and slander and defame you by writing about it. And it's completely bullshit. And you wouldn't have no idea, no way to defend it because, unless you're Brett Kavanaugh, who has like notebooks and that records every single moment of his entire life, then, how are you going to really defend it? It's completely bullshit.
Genuinely, how a man can protect himself in the Western world anymore. How can you even exist anymore? If this is what they're going to hit you with as soon as you get to a certain level of influence, there's no man on earth who's safe from this. I said this to my judges. I had a few male judges. I said, they could do this to you. They could do this to anyone. They can do it to you or me or any man watching this. Any man watching this. They can put in the BBC 9 years ago you did something. They won't tell you her name. They won't give you any chance to defend yourself. You have no idea what they're fucking talking about. And they will print it on repeat until you lose your job and lose your bank and lose your social media. And then you're going to sit there bankrupt and depressed. And then they're just going to move on from you. And if you don't die, if you're like me, a cockroach who refuses to die, if you sit around and refuse to go away, they're going to make up a new one. It's crazy. And it's genuinely scary. And you're not safe from it anywhere anymore. I will say right now on this podcast, I encourage absolutely anybody who believes I've harmed them, male or female, to go to the police with evidence and we'll go to court. Let's do it. I don't harm people. If I was harming people, I wouldn't be out here as open as I was. The biggest criminals and the biggest gangsters, the most heinous people on earth don't have social media. You know this. If I see a guy with an Instagram pretending he's a gangster, he's not a gangster. The real gangster has no Instagram. But that's the reality of it. You think I'm going to become the most Google man in the world if I've been running around hurting people? It's absolutely insane. And I think there has been a shift in the consciousness.
All right. I want to trying to interrupt them. I mean, an argument could be made that, you don't think you're going to get caught and all that stuff, but he has a fairly valid point. But again, he has a very valid point. Like, the people who have like shit to against them, and the people that have like, skeletons in their closet, they don't go and like, they try to keep their lives private, so they don't, like the real bad guys, you wouldn't see like let's see, let me think of someone. You wouldn't see like a Pablo Escobar or something like that on well, that's not a good one because he was kind of a leader, but you wouldn't see an average gangster like with Instagram like showing off like, his gangsta shit and stuff like that. People with like real skeletons closet, unless they're really high up, generally don't, show their faces. And I guess an argument can be made, oh well, he's really high up, he probably didn't think about it, blah blah blah. But I just really doubt that any of these allegations are even close to being real. Just because the simple fact of why I really don't believe it, one of the big ones is just this. Think about all other, any other famous essay, rape, allegations made against a male actor. How many times have we seen various other women, and I'm not talking like, fake ones where, but ones where the person's actually charged, but how many times do we see like droves and droves of people, women just come out of the woodwork, and there's hardly any. Like, BBC had to make a couple up. I mean, and they say there's 3 more that are filing a civil lawsuit. I don't know. I don't believe that at all, but still. But they have what, 2 people with no names, no faces, or anything like that saying this. That it's kind of suspicious to me that you don't have these droves of women that come out and like, oh hey, guess what, this guy, what he did to these girls, he did to me too. So I want some, whatever, I want my pound of flesh or whatever. You see that a lot now. With the BBC, all you got are these 2 women. I think in the article they said 3. I don't know if that 3 more, so like 5 in total. I don't know if they count Sophie in that 3s. They may or may not. But the 2 that they have presented and quote unquote named, their stories are bullshit, like complete bullshit, or at the very least they're really old and there's very little evidence. So that's just, yeah, that's the reason I really, one of the big factors why I believe Andrew here.
I think especially because of COVID and a few other things, people are starting to understand that all these people do is lie. I think people are starting to understand that. And the harder they try and hurt me with these lies, the less people believe it, which is scary for me.
Now, that's the same thing with Trump too, is, what you've seen, like when Trump was in office and everything, or running and stuff, they flung so much shit at him. Apparently I can't pronounce S's very well. They flung so much shit at him that eventually it kind of just rolled off on him. Like all this crap, the Russia investigation, blah, 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 storming down, blah, blah, blah. And they all turned into big nothing burgers. And people stopped believing it. And it's the same with Andrew Tate. They're well, it's not the same with Andrew Tate, but it started, I think, mostly with Trump. It started with Trump because they would fling this crap on it, hoping for something to stick. And, either none of it sticked, or what they flung turned out to be more of a molehill than more than a molehill than a mountain. So like what I mean by that is they'd expand it and make it like a lot bigger than it was. And when we got the real story, you're like, that's not so bad. And, so that happened with Trump, and then it happened with COVID. First it was mask, then it was no mask, or first it was no mask, then it was mask, then it was, 2-week lockdown, then it turned into 2-year lockdown, etc. Vaccines will prevent it completely. Vaccines don't prevent it, and, stuff like that. So I think that's Andrew's point is, it started with Trump, and now that it's gotten to him, a lot of people are more skeptical, which is good. We should all be more skeptical of what our government tells us or what mainstream media tells us, because they have incentives to lie.
Like I said earlier, it's scary. They keep coming up with more garbage. The bullets keep bouncing off. So now they're sitting around going, we can't convince the world this person is a bad person. How do we get rid of him? That's the scary part.
You were going to say something.
Yeah,
Follow up on that. If you want to
the
go
6
there.
months, it's
6 months coming up right now.
It's coming up
Yeah.
June 29th, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, you put out a tweet recently. You said the 6-month time limit is running out, right? There's zero evidence against me unless they invent something against me, right? And then you ask a poll. You said if they charge me with an empty bullet and it still takes a year to beat it and allows them to save face, they're hoping that the world will basically forget about all this. What do you think they will do? You gave people 3 options. Option 1, let me go. Option 2, charge me with no evidence. Option 3, invent and frame attempt. The results were 30.
Before we get into this, I think I did that poll. And I think I picked that last one. I think if he does get charged, it'll be something that's bullshit. They're not going to charge him without any evidence because then it just, it'll look really bad. They'll definitely make something up if they charge him.
38% let me go, right? 35% invent and frame attempt. And option 2, in third place, charge me with no evidence, 27%. 38%, 35%, 27%. So basically, it's pretty even. So what do you think is going to happen?
The people, the 38% of people who think they're going to let me go, I think are extremely naive. I go to sleep every night. Every morning, I wake up instinctually at 5 a.m. because that's when they raid your house. I wake up at like 4:59. I just fucking shoot up because they busted my house 3 times now. It's not nice to have a bunch of men with guns bust in your house. It's not a nice experience. So every single morning I wake up expecting them to just turn up again with something else and drag me back to a prison cell. Who knows what? They'll just make it up. But the fact they made up this particular crime is because it's a hit piece and it's a slander on my reputation. If they would have done the same thing, let's say for tax evasion, would anyone care? No. Oh, rich guy didn't pay up his way. No one cares. We have to hurt his name. Human trafficking. Think about that. I said this to the judge. How does it make sense? A man with no criminal record who is financially successful decides to begin to human traffic at 35 years of age. I have no financial motivation. It's clearly not my personality profile. I don't need money. Why have I begun to human traffic from nowhere? It doesn't even make any sense from a pure logical perspective. There's no motive to the crime. Who have I human trafficked? Who is the victim? There's no victims and there's no motive. And here I am on house arrest. It's insane. So yeah, it's genuinely intimidating. I don't know what's going to happen next. I believe they're going to try and charge me with the garbage they have. And I think what they're trying to do is just hang it over my head and keep me afraid.
Do you think the idea of trying to either silence you or make you irrelevant is working? Meaning, do you think you're more relevant today?
All right, we're gonna skip this a bit. I'm gonna probably end this stream here pretty soon. I want to eat, and then I got to make a video for tomorrow. So let's see. We gotta fucking. But yeah, we're gonna I'm gonna make a video, and actually, there we go. Sweet. Okay. I'm gonna make a video here, for tomorrow. That's what I got to do. So we're going to just skip a little further. Again, I really hope everyone goes and actually checks out this video. I thought it was really good. Sorry, I'm just trying to skip forward. Sorry, I'm trying to skip ahead for something. Okay. I don't have the time. I wish they really had timestamps. It'd make this a little bit easier. But it is what it is. No big deal. I really like the interview and everything, but some of the things I just want to cover because I don't have the time to do it right now because I got to make a video for tomorrow and I got to eat because I'm starving and I'm fat and we got to eat. But no, the two things I really want to cover is his talks on his brother, Tristan, and his religion, which is Islam. Andrew recently converted to Islam, I think like last year or something like that. I can take these out. So the thing about Tristan was he talked about how Tristan, let's see, just trying to remember. He was talking about how Tristan, he has this attitude. Tristan has like a superpower. Tate calls it. Andrew calls it. Sorry. He says that Tristan can just not give a fuck, and by that he means that like when they went to jail. Sorry, I'm doing a really bad job explaining, but I thought it was really interesting. It really explains their dynamic as brothers. So when they went to jail, and they got out of jail. Andrew ended up having like a bunch of people that like basically like the Romanian government or whatever, like business partners, friends, whatever. They when he got out of jail, they talked to him, said, "Oh, you don't understand how hard this was for me because, they sent a letter, they asked me, they questioned me, they bothered me about you, blah blah, etc. blah." And Andrew's like, "Well, I was in jail, so I mean, you think it was hard for you? Just imagine how hard it was for me." But the reason he was talking about this was because his brother. Now, mind you, his brother. Okay, the only reason Tristan Tate really got sent to jail was because he's Andrew Tate's brother. Andrew's the one that's the face. Like he really is the one that you generally see of the Tate brothers. He's the older brother, and everyone sees him generally first. And for the most part, I mean, Tristan's done a few interviews and whatnot. But mostly it's Andrew who goes on the podcast and talks all this stuff. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, he was, if you believe the charges, like, well, he's part of the trafficking ring. So that's why he got sent to jail. But if you believe the charges. But the reality is the reason Tristan got sent to jail is because Andrew's his brother. And the reason I mention all this is because the entire time in jail and after jail, Andrew says that Tristan didn't complain once. He didn't complain like, oh, the only reason I'm here is because of you. It's your fault, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say a single thing. And that's very interesting. It speaks a lot to Tristan's character. How the entire time he didn't blame Andrew. It wasn't, he didn't blame Andrew's fault. He just, called it a matrix attack, etc. Went on about his business. And I found that really amazing. Just think about how many people do you have in your life? Just think about, how many people you have in your life that if they went to jail because of you, even if you went to jail too with them or whatever, but because of you, how many people honestly believe that they would have someone that wouldn't bring it up at least once? Be like, yo, the only reason I'm here is because of you, asshole. Something like that. I think I probably would too. Like I'm not in the saint here. So it's really interesting. It speaks a lot to Tristan's character and how much he backs his brother no matter what. I think we all should strive to that level of loyalty to someone that is valuable to our lives. And then another thing is Andrew talked about his dynamic with his brother Tristan and how different they are. Andrew's the type. I'm kind of like Andrew in this aspect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not Andrew Tate at all. I don't report myself to even come close. Not even to his net worth, his physique. Nothing. The only thing him and I have common is we're both bald and we both have beards. Except he has hair now and he can grow hair on top of his head. I can grow it like here and here. I can shoehorn my hair and it's generally bald up here. Not Andrew. He shaves because he wants to. But we're both similar in. He talks about how he's the guy who he'll worry, he'll immediately want to fix something, whatever, and whatever basically. And like, so like, example, like if the business deal, is taking too long or whatever he wants, or there's something wrong with a business or whatever, he wants to fix it immediately, get it done and all that. He worries about that stuff. And the entire time in jail, he was focusing on how do I get out of jail? And he spent the entire time. Now, Tristan, on the other hand, he was, as Andrew put it, he has the superpower of not giving a fuck. Like when they went to jail. So the way their situation worked out is they were in jail. Whenever they got brought out to appeal the jail sentence and maybe get let go, they have to wait like 3 hours before a decision's made and sent to them. And so, they go to jail, they go, they do, speak their piece, they come back, and then they, be stuck in a jail cell for 3 hours, wondering whether they get home. And, Andrew would spend the time fretting about it, worrying about it, and, all right, what am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. Try and get themselves out of that situation. And then Tristan would come in because they'd go to jail separately. But I guess he was saying, or go to before the judge to maybe get let out separately. And so he'd come in and be like, it's a matrix attack. This is bullshit. I'm going to bed. And then he'd fall asleep, wake up 6 hours later and be like, matrix attack. And Andrew's like, yeah, matrix attack. And he's like, all right, that's what I thought. And went back to bed. And it's kind of like, Andrew talks about how the only reason Tristan's able to do that is because that Andrew's the one who's on point. Like, and I really understand that. I really do. It's kind of the similar dynamic between me and my wife. Like when my wife and I are, out and about or anything in general, I'm the one who's generally in charge, and I, am the one that takes care of everything. She doesn't really have a worry. So whenever we're out and about, she has a, don't give a fuck attitude. Like whenever, we're out and about and I'm walking around, I'm hyper aware, looking, making sure, we're all safe. She's basically clueless. But, when we're not together and we're separate, then, it obviously is different. She's a little more aware. She knows where her surroundings a lot better. So I just connected with Andrew when he was talking about that, about his brother. And another thing is really interesting about Tristan is the fact that Andrew brings it up, and he's talking about how Tristan was there was talks about letting Tristan out by keeping Andrew in, and Tristan's like, no, you keep me here. My brother's in jail, I'm in jail. And again, think about how many people, when offered the chance to get out of jail, would actually take it. I mean, I think I would, honestly. I mean, maybe if not my wife or something, but just think about it. Just think about like how many people, if given the chance to get out of jail, even if you stayed there, would take that. I'm sure most people would. So again, it speaks to Andrew or Tristan's character. And Andrew says, same with me. They were like, oh, we'll let you out, but we're going to keep your brother. And he'd be like, no, I'm staying in. And it's just interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, and I think it's something we'd all strive for in our lives. It's someone that we can ride or die for, and I mean real ride or die. I said I was going to talk about his religion. I think it'd be better just for him to explain it a lot more. Maybe I'll do like a part 2 to this. I don't know. I'm kind of busy. I do a full-time job before I do any of this YouTube stuff, so I don't think I'll actually end up, so it's kind of hard to do stuff. That's why I do recordings and all that stuff. But anyways, I'm just going to land it off of that. It's amazing it's amazing the relationship these two have with each other. To me, it's really amazing. And I think it's something we'd all should strive for at some point in our lives. But anyways, that's the live stream. We didn't get very far. I kept talking about too much. It was a really good interview. Again, I highly recommend everyone go watch it in full. Come back and watch my reaction, of course. Listen to me talk because, I'm sure you all love hearing my dulcet tones. I just had one viewer come in and pop out, so I don't know. But, hopefully everyone will watch it and will, whatever. Anyways, that's just me trying to be selfish to get some money going. But anyways, that's the end of what I'm talking about. I'm going to do a recorded video right now to let it get sent out tomorrow at my usual time at 12 p.m. The only reason I did a live stream today is I had to go home early from work because my poor, beautiful daughter ended up fracturing her leg. Really sucks. So we got to get, she got a splint on it and everything like that. We just thought it was a sprain. Turned out, no, she fractured it. She fell off a chair and fractured it, which is nice. So nice. God damn, poor child. But yeah, that's the only reason I was able to live stream today. I didn't get any views. No big deal. I am still really new at this. I only started like a month ago, not even a month ago, a couple weeks ago. So I really, hopefully in the next couple months, I'll get more and more viewers. I just got one follower on Rumble. I was going to shout them out, but I couldn't find them. It just gave me a notification while I was on my phone. But shout out to you, to the one person that followed me on Rumble. I need 3 more people to be able to not have to pay to live stream to Rumble. Hopefully get there. And then after that, I need, 3. So I'm trying to do math. I need 18 people to get my own unique Rumble channel or Rumble link. So that'd be cool. I got like 7 subscribers on YouTube. I'd like to bump that up more, but this is all process. I don't think it's going to come really quick. And I'm also really crappy at it, but I'm doing better each and every day, I think. But anyways, that's the end. I hope you guys liked it, at least my thoughts and reactions to everything. So if you did, and even if you didn't, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, like my banner says, at official WGhost. Follow me at my Rumble channel with Ghost. That's all I got. So I'm going to go eat. I'm going to do a video. What my video is going to be about is I'm going to need to watch. There is a showcase from Ubisoft and a showcase on Xbox. I'm going to watch either both or just one of, I don't know, probably Ubisoft, because I think more games came out for Ubisoft. So I'm going to react to that. And then I'm going to, that's all I'm going to react to for tomorrow's video. Hopefully something interesting happens tomorrow. I'll talk about that, but at least we'll get to watch some video games, which I actually enjoy a lot. Let's see. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So peace out. I hope you all have a good day. And peace, baby.